All right, so I'm going to do number 2 on Poly 18, and this is about evaluating a graph. So, of course, the first thing you have to do is graph it in your calculator. So I've already put this into my Y editor, and it's always a good idea to just double check to make sure you put it in correctly, because if you make a mistake now, that mistake is just going to continue all the way through the problem. And then the next thing you want to do is graph it in an appropriate window. So I went from -3 to 4 and -10 to +10. Um, and then the next thing you want to do is define your turning points, because if you're going to find your relative max and min and your increasing and decreasing intervals, you need your turning points. So there are 3 turning points. There's one here, there's one here, and there's one here. Remember, turning points are just where your graph changes its direction. I have 2 maximum turning points and 1 minimum turning point. So you're going to find these just like you did when you found the vertex of a parabola. You're going to go to second calc, which is above the trace button. And if I want to find a maximum, it says left bound. So I'm going to put my cursor to the left of the first turning point. Anywhere to the left, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to hit enter. And then you're going to put it to the right of the turning point. Again, you don't want it too far away from the turning point, but it doesn't matter exactly where. And then you're going to hit enter, and you'll see that your first turning point is -0.9 and 9.4. Now, my second turning point is going to be a minimum, so I'm going to go to second calc. Now I'm going to pick 3 for minimum. I'm going to put my cursor to the left of the turning point. I'll put it to the right of the turning point. I'll hit enter and enter again. And now this minimum is 0.4 and 1.4. And the last one, second trace, I'm going to find a maximum. And I'm going to put it to the left of the curve, to the right of the curve, hit enter, and hit enter again. And now this one is 1.5 and 5.7. All right, so I've written all of those down here, and I've given a sketch of the graph. So now the question asked, it says, all right, so what are the local maxes and local min? So my local max or my relative max, those are the same things. Those are going to be the Y values of my turning points. I'm trying to get all of this in here. Well, my turning point, I have 2 maximums, so I'm going to have 2 local maxes. The Y value is 9.4 and 5.7. So I'm just going to list those, 9.4 and 5.7. And then my local min or my relative min, again, they are the same thing. Well, they only have 1 minimum and its Y value is 1.4. So this value here is just going to be 1.4. Now you have to find your increasing intervals. So you have to say, all right, where is my graph increasing? And it's where are your Y's increasing? Hold on, let me just write interval. All right. So if you look at your graph, my Y's are increasing in this area, but they're also increasing in this area. So I have 2 increasing intervals. But remember, your increasing intervals are X values. So what X value am I starting to increase from? Well, remember, this goes on and on and on forever. So I'm starting to increase at negative infinity. And where do I stop increasing? Well, I stop increasing at my first turning point, and the X value of my first turning point is -0.9. So my first increasing interval is written in what we call interval notation, where I'm going to put parentheses. My first X is negative infinity, and my second X is -0.9. Now, my next increasing interval, I'm going to start at the X value of my minimum. So I'm going to start at 0.4, and I'm going to end at the X value of this maximum, which is 1.5. So this one is going to be written as 0.4 and 1.5. So those are my increasing intervals. But I also have 2 decreasing intervals. Let me erase some of this so I have a little more room. So now I want 2 decreasing intervals. So you can see now my graph is decreasing in this area, but it's also decreasing in this area. So I have two decreasing intervals. And remember, when we write this, we're only writing x values. So it starts to decrease at this maximum point. So it's going to start to decrease at 0.9. And it's going to stop increasing at this minimum point, or at 0.4. This next one is going to start decreasing at 1.5, but it's going to stop decreasing. Remember, this graph goes on and on forever, so it's going to stop decreasing at infinity. So then these here would be my two decreasing intervals. And the only other thing I might ever ask you for in these graphs is the real zero, and you would just go to your graph and find those points. I would only ask you for real zeros when we are just describing graphs. I hope this helps.